Good evening, everyone, to all councillors, members in the gallery, and all the press, and all those here online watching this evening. So welcome to the full council meeting on Wednesday, the 20th of September. Okay, I have to do the safety announcements first, so I'll just run through those. In case of emergency, there are no planned fire drills during this meeting, but if you hear the fire alarm sound, please treat it as a real emergency and evacuate the building nearest safe escape route. The nearest one is via the stairs to your left as you leave the council chamber or public gallery. Exit via the door at the back of the building and walk across the inner car park to the evacuation point, which is the pavement opposite the police station. The large wooden doors entrance exit onto the high street will be locked from 6 p.m. tonight due to bad weather conditions. The lifts can't be used in the event of an emergency. Please do not re-enter the building until you're advised it is safe to do so by a member of staff. I would like to advise both members of the public and the press that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast live. Mobile phones should be switched off unless they're being used for the meeting. Please only speak when I ask you to do so and speak clearly into the microphone. I will go on to the apologies. I haven't received any apologies. Everybody's here, present, correct? Brilliant. And so I would like to welcome Councillor Sarah Redrup to the chamber for her first official full council meeting. Well, congratulations on your new position, and we look forward to seeing you around. We now move on to the agenda. Start with item 1 is the minutes. So propose we approve these minutes. Does anyone have any comments on that?
Moved, Chair.
You're
Moved.
I moved. Sorry, I didn't get that. Yep. You're a second. So you're seconder, yeah. And so by affirmation, everybody happy to agree with those minutes? Majority. Thank you. I will just sign those. Quite a lot to it. Okay. On to item 2, I have declarations of interest. Oh, 2 hands and 3 hands. So if I start with Councillor Fuller.
Thank you, Chairman. Item 8A. This is the youth court. The youth justice paper. I'm declaring a non-pecuniary interest by the fact that I am a serving youth court magistrate. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jones-Evans.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, item 9A, the motion by Councillor Andre regarding the Music Hub. I've just commenced my role on the Arts Council England South West Regional Council, so I will be departing for that item. Thank you.
Thank you for informing us. And Councillor Jarman.
A similar reason to Councillor Fuller, in that I'm a Justice of the Peace, and this is a motion which involves the Ministry of Justice. There's a conflict there of non-pecuniary interest, so I'm declaring that, and I will not take any part in that item on the agenda.
Thank you. Councillor Ward.
I declare an interest in item 9B, the parking permit. I have one.
I think that might apply to quite a few of us, so I think that can be just allowed. Councillor Ellis.
I also have a parking permit. Do we all need to be declared?
No, I think I just covered that by saying I think that applies to quite a few of us. So, Councillor Brodie.
Well, I don't have one. I'm proud,
So declare
and
it
I'm
expected.
proud to say it. Thank you, Chair.
Are you actually the official closest? No, I think maybe you're not. You're not the officially the closest councillor, are you? No, probably Jones Evans. Yeah, that's okay. So I think there's some of us have more necessity than others. Thank you. Okay, is that all declarations of interest? Haven't missed anyone? No. Okay. I will go on to item 3, the election of executive leader to hold office until annual council May 25. I need to ask for nominations. Councillor Peace Will.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to nominate councillor Phil Jordan, please.
Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Lilly? Councillor Brading?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Susie Ellis, please.
We have a seconder for Councillor S.
I'll second that nomination.
Councillor Jarman. Thank you. Councillor Jordan, do you accept that nomination?
I do, thank you.
Councillor Ellis, do you accept that nomination?
I do, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Councillor Stevens?
When we go to the vote on this, I'd like a name vote.
I think I needed to have 5, but I think I've seen at least 5 hands go up, so that is fine. So we will be doing a named vote on that. So Mr.
Thank you, Chairman.
Potter, that's no problem. Mr. Potter will be ready with the paperwork necessary for that. Okay.
Can we just move to vote, Chair?
If the proposer or seconder wish to speak, they can, but I'm sure many people will want to get onto the vote. So, so is it, yeah, anybody want to speak or just go on to the vote? Would they like to speak, the proposer like to speak on their, yes, but others were asking if we could go straight to the vote, so it was, would you like to speak? Okay. Is your right to do so?
Thank you very much.
Councillor Brodie? If they wish to, but I think most would want to get on with the vote so that we have a leader. But yes, I'm happy if the proposer would like to speak on their nomination, then no, I think Councillor Peter Wilcox says that.
But Chair, I think there are a number of us who will want to speak to the motion.
Councillor Brading would like to speak on.
I absolutely would, and obviously my seconder, the motion, would also like to speak. Councillor Ellis is the leader of the largest group in this chamber. Since she became leader, Councillor Church is moving the furniture. Since she became leader of our group, she showed really clear leadership style to all of us and to many other councillors that sit here this evening. She's very happy and comfortable, engaging, talking and dealing with everyone, whatever background, whatever views they have. The Alliance has been in control of the council now for well over 2 years, and sadly hasn't delivered what it should have delivered, hasn't tackled difficult decisions that needed to be made, and it's really letting islanders down by its lack of pace, urgency and decision-making ability. There is now time to change the leader. I think we need to bring forward a change of direction, and it's long overdue. We need a new progressive administration that can take the difficult decisions that need to be made on the island, don't just sit back and do nothing. And we have the opportunity now, from Councillor P.C. Wilcox's resignation as leader, to make the change, be bold for the good of the island. And I think now is the time to do that. And Councillor Ellis is the person to lead us through that. Thank you.
Okay, would the seconder like to speak or?
Chair, can I just seek clarification on what process we're following? Are we allowing the candidates to speak or not? I guess that's a binary issue, yes or no? I wasn't sure what answer I got.
We can do if that's the wishes of the room. It's not set in stone. What's it?
I think it was a question asked by Councillor Brodie. It seemed to be a very valid question. And I think his point was well made, that it is important to hear from them as to what they think their relative merits are to occupy that significant position. So I'm just, and then if we are allowing discussion, are we allowing members to talk to this item on the agenda, or only the proposer and seconder? I guess you might want to take advice from the monitoring officer into what the process might be appropriate for this.
Thank you, Councillor Chairman. It is a matter, obviously, for members. Normally, motions proposed, seconded, and then there's a debate on the issue. Councillor Brodie has mentioned, obviously, enabling people to hear from the candidates, two candidates as well. So my advice to members would be to facilitate that debate if that's what members wish. Thank you.
I'm happy for that to happen if people feel that is necessary. So, yeah, just, you know, I don't think we want to be here all night because of the weather. And I know some of you will go on and on about the same thing. So, as usual. So I think that perhaps if you do want to speak, we can. Would the candidates like to speak first?
Sorry, Chair, can we be slightly less flippant about it? Because to most of us, this is really, you're coming over, that's just hurry up, get this over and done with. And actually, just saying that councillors go on about the same things as chair, that doesn't.
No, if you're all going to say the same things, then I will move it on. But that's what normally people have told me that I don't move it on. So I just think we need to, if people want to comment, they can. Would the candidates like to speak?
Thank you, Chair. I don't feel that I would like to speak at this point. Thank you. I think I've made my feelings clear over the past few weeks, and I'm quite happy if others wish to speak. I'm quite happy to go to the vote as soon as possible. Thank you.
That's the feeling I had from others. So, Councillor Jordan, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Chair. I'll echo Councillor Ellis's words there. Happy to go to the vote.
So, would anybody else on the floor like to speak? Councillor Edland?
Thank you, Chair. I would like to speak because I find myself in a very unusual position of being deciding to vote for a Conservative administration. And I just thought I'd like to explain that to the public because that's completely contrary to my former view. I believe that we face an existential crisis. I believe we're now very close to a Section 114. I fear this vote may be our last chance to save this council. I think we, in the previous independent administration, we set about really trying to deal with the reduction of our liabilities and trying to reduce the non-statutory services. And I hope that would continue under this Alliance administration. And I've been sadly disappointed that that does not seem to be happening. And I feel that the Conservatives do understand that agenda, that we cannot keep collecting more debt and carrying huge assets, which are effectively liabilities, which are under threat of being disposed of by commissioners from Westminster at some point. I'm very, very concerned. I'm also very concerned with the continued insistence on the draft Ireland strategic plan. I think this is an extraordinarily mistaken policy. It is not what the island needs. The island is facing an enormous housing crisis. We have to meet that by invoking exceptional circumstances so that we can provide the right kind of housing for our people and not build the wrong kind of housing for the national market. I could have gone, I had a motor speech, but I do want to be brief. I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Medland. Would anyone else like to speak? I think Councillor Outlaw first.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I did want to say a few words. For me, that people have got different reasons for us being in this position, but ultimately, the reason we're in this position because this administration has been failing. For me, the one reason which has guided me to the position where I've been persuading, along with other colleagues on this side of the chamber, our leader to stand up and say, no, we need to have a vote of no confidence, which led us to this moment. The one thing is school place planning and the inability of the administration to deal with that over the last couple of years. Now, I sit on the Children's Services, or have sat throughout that period on the Children's Services Committee, and I have seen governors and head teachers come forward to that committee and plead with that committee for this administration to deal with the school place planning, and it is sat on its hands. And that has continued for 2 years, that this administration has failed the children of the Isle of Wight. They talk very much about doing things for the children, but you have failed the Isle of Wight education system in not dealing with school place planning. And then you've thrown your cabinet member under the bus with no thanks for standing up and doing what you told them to do. I think it's disgraceful. I think if anyone puts, and I look at Richard here as the chairman of that committee, you've seen, you've heard those pleas for that to be done. One or two of you who have been on that committee, Councillor Adams, they know what the situation is, and yet nothing has been done. And I ask you to consider whether, if Councillor Jordan becomes leader of this council, is he going to deal with that? Is he truly going to deal with that? I ask you to look at your conscience and decide whether you can answer in the affirmative. If you can, vote for him. And ultimately, we'll be where we are come May 2025. But I know this side of the chamber will do the right thing, even if it's unpopular, and it will be, but it has to be done for the good of the Isle of Wight and the good of the education of the children on the Isle of Wight. Thank you.
Councillor Churchman. Sorry, I can't read. Councillor Churchman.
Thank you, Chair. A leader is only as good as the people who are prepared to follow them. But if those in the Alliance group cannot agree on major issues, then it's pointless. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. The original motion put forward in July by the EI and Conservatives was not about the leader, but Councillor PC Wilcox, but about the lack of decision-making by the Alliance group as a whole, a group made up of so many different political persuasions that very few major decisions were actually made or implemented. There are 3 areas of importance facing the councils across the whole country: finance, education, and housing. The Alliance seemed to have failed to address any of these. All councils face a shortage of money, and if not carefully managed, could go bankrupt. We have Croydon and Birmingham. The council has managed to alienate Hampshire with regard to children's services, which including education. And Hampshire have informed us of their intention to end the contract. Every council has a statutory duty to have a director in this role. I can remember Hampshire's Steve Crocker telling me that he was the cheapest education director in the country because we paid half of his salary. Where on earth are we going to find the money to employ and provide a directorate now that Hampshire are ending this contract? Our salaries are nowhere near what mainland officers expect, even if we could attract people to come to the island. And our reputation must be shot to pieces because Hampshire have rejected us. The only affordable housing built or being built was initiated by the Conservatives during 17 to 21. Bramston Farm and Rookley, to name just 2. We have money set aside for house building, again initiated by the Conservatives, but it's still sitting there doing nothing. The Conservatives are the biggest group. We have 16 councillors, whereas the Alliance have dropped down to 13, and some of their cabinet positions have doubled up to cover the posts of 10 cabinet members. As a group, we have engaged with others to form an administration that will get on and take the hard decisions that face this island, but with the intention of serving the island and not any particular personal agendas. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Jarman?
Thank you, Chair. I was just waiting a moment to see if we wanted to adjust the sound. There was a lot of feedback.
I think it might have been a Councillor Churchman issue.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
So I think we're all aware of the national economic situation and the extreme pressures on our social services. We know the lasting effects of COVID, population dynamics, and the substantial impact of these turmoils on our island. I don't believe anything we do here this evening will change those realities. What we can do here today is to choose a leader whose team will endeavour to mitigate the worst of those impacts of those realities on our island, demonstrate leadership by taking hard decisions and bringing hope that sound judgment will prevail in finding a better outcome. Such ambitious goals can only be realised by freeing ourselves from the enslavement of pointless political rhetoric, by bringing all available talent to bear and by working together. Hence, the choice tonight is not only about the name of the executive leader we select, it's about the team behind them and their commitment to take those hard decisions, and by moving from a situation of reporting on problems to actively managing solutions. There is hope. There are talents among us that have been for too long ignored. Each of us in Empowering Islanders has made a significant choice earlier this year to set aside party politics and work together for the benefit of our island. We remain steadfastly focused on the goals we set regarding the use of exceptional circumstances to deliver the homes islanders need, prudent financial management, and using all available talent, irrespective of politics, and to identify partners that will work with us to achieve them. We know that we're not alone, and it is sad to see those, like Councillor Carl Love, being dismissed when speaking out in truth about our financial reality, and when the only response of some members to sound arguments is to run off in desperation to the press, trying to manipulate facts and intent, and by name calling, implying a member's commitment and faith to be a cult. Intolerant and reprehensible actions that everyone here should call out in abhorrence. Now is the time for action, to actively manage our financial situation, to prioritise services. But like so many here, I've seen others paralysed by fear and indecision when confronted by tough choices that urgently need to be taken. School rationalisation, we've heard about it. Subsidised saunas kept open in leisure centres when there are residents of this island that can't afford to heat a bath. The list goes on. I understand the easy recourse to indecision and endless delay, but I cannot stand by and see it continue. Neither should you. I commend the choice of Councillor Susie Ellis as Executive Leader and of the cross-group team to take up the challenges ahead with focus and vigour.
Councillor Quigley.
Thank you. I wasn't going to say anything because I didn't think it was necessary, but sometimes facts do get in the way of an interesting story. The schools issue, as Councillor Outlaw says, I am very interested in that, and I do really want to move to a solution very quickly. But I've met with head teachers twice now in the last week. The truth of the matter is their first plea to the Tory administration started in 2018, which means you sat on it for 3 years. So this current administration has got a year before they've put themselves in the same position as you. That said, I'm not going to let them off the hook. I think it should have been dealt with a long time ago. Less affordable housing was delivered under the Tories. That's a fact. The figures are in our last lot of minutes. They invested in property off Ireland, which is now worth a lot less than it was. And we're still cozying up to the 3 biggest NIMBYs in the room. I exclude you, Councillor Adams, from that. I have my issues with the Alliance. But in terms of achievement, the Conservatives have nothing to boast about and certainly don't have a meaningful plan to better the lives of islanders. I could go on to the £40 million loan, but I'm sort of getting a bit bored of explaining that to people.
You, Councillor Ward.
I would like to express my personal thanks to Councillor Laura PC Wilcox for chairing this council for the last 2 and a bit years. And I would hope the other members in this chamber do the same. Laura has done a very good job. Thank you. However,
Laura expects.
leader. However, that doesn't let the administration off the hook. There's lots that could have been done. I represent Sandown, you know, and there are lots that could have been done. We missed chances. Thank you.
Laura expressed that people didn't make lots of comments about it. So in case anyone else was thinking of that. Councillor Garrett.
Thank you, Chair. So it will be no surprise that I'll be supporting Councillor Jordan this evening. And I could refer people back to the speech I made 2 and a bit years ago when I supported Councillor PC Wilcox to lead the administration. And my memory may be faulty, but I think to some extent we were looking at the test of the electorate. What had the electorate told us to do? So a mathematical argument has been made around the alliance's diminishing numbers, but we must remember the alliance was not elected as a grouping as such, but were formed together by people working in a like-minded manner. That their numbers have diminished is just a natural approach to where a number of independent people find different ways of working together, and there's a collection in the middle of the chamber who have decided to work in a different way. But it mustn't be forgotten that the largest group on the council, we're reminded, is the Conservatives, but they too have diminished in number, one by a realignment, the other by electoral test. And Councillor Stewart here is the result of that electoral test. He won more than 50% of the vote in that by-election. My own group has grown, well, I wasn't a group 2 and a bit years ago, has grown, some have said exponentially. We won't go into a mathematical class, but can I personally welcome, of course, Councillor Sarah Redrup to the Liberal Democrat bench in this council chamber. And she is a result of another test of the electorate. And she won just shy of 50% of the vote. Together, those two people sit here having won more than 50% of the votes that were cast. The electorate's view is clear that it wants a Liberal Democrat administration, but I kind of feel that's a bit unfair on my colleagues at this moment in time to load them with that. So I look to where I see those Liberal principles best being delivered. We are not appointing a manager or a chief executive. We're looking for a political leader. My memory is fading a little, but I did sit here on the other side of the chamber and find myself appalled by the actions of a Conservative administration. The most appalling of which was the reduction of the local council tax support scheme from 75 originally down to 65%. Thankfully, we've seen a reversal in that a little bit. And there has been contrition, I accept, from the Conservative group members. Councillor Quirk has made that known to me a couple of years ago. But you have to judge whether, once you've been bitten once, do you want to be bitten twice? Is there a case for putting the Conservatives in charge, or is there a case for allowing Councillor Jordan to take the leadership of this council? Now, I've not agreed with every decision of the alliance, but I do think their hearts are in the most right place, and so I will be supporting Councillor Jordan this evening.
Councillor Daw.
Thank you, Chair. Like many others, I've just scribbled notes. I wasn't going to say anything, but there's a couple of things mentioned tonight that I personally take exception with. I went to a funeral on Friday, and it was the church vicar, Canon Hilary Spurgeon, Binsted and Binsted Holy Cross, who had passed away a couple of weeks before. Over the last 6 months or so, we've been working together with residents because there was the risk of a TRO coming into the area. If the TRO had gone in place with the double yellow lines, the church stood a very strong chance of going under. It would also, as well as removing the parking spaces of the parishioners for weddings, funerals, baptisms, whatever, it would have increased the road speed on Church Road, and the same applied for Newnham Road. Essentially, it would have moved the problem around the corner. For my part, I got a speed gun out and took some photos ready for submission. For her, she managed to glean over 101 supporters' signatures, all whilst battling cancer. That was then submitted to Councillor Jordan, who took it to Cabinet and had the TRO removed. All this jibber jabber and all this power trying to glean, can we please just focus on what we are actually employed, given an allowance to do? And that is represent our wards. 4 years, the Conservatives did sweet Felicity Arkwright in flooding. I step in, and in a year, we're moving forward. We've gone £170,000. We're knocking on the door of £500,000 in terms of EA funding and support from Southern Water. The previous Binstead councillor was allowed to live in Spain and operate from Spain whilst failing the ward. 21 houses were flooded. Disabled children were carried out the window. Nothing was done. It's unacceptable. So all this indecision and talk of environmental issues, rubbish. Some people are putting the work and the effort in. And I would like to see this room pull those resources and pull together. I will support Councillor Jordan because he did the decent thing with the evidence, removed the TROs, and the church is going to function. He's helped us with the flooding. Please stop the bickering, give him a chance. This group isn't perfect, but no group is. I'm confident, and with some changes and hopefully a little bit of restructure and a management reassessment and a bit of redirection, we can move things forward. Thank you very much.
Councillor Love.
Thank you, Chair. I sit up here and I listen and I wonder what the electorate will think of what is going on here in this room tonight. We have all failed, every single one of us. There are 39 of us that operate this council, not one bit or another bit, but 39 councillors who should be pulling together to work for a single identity. And this council should not be run by one bit or the other bit. It should be run by us all. And sadly, it is the party tribal politics that we've returned to. And I'm not pointing the finger in anywhere, but that's what I see sat up here is party tribal politics. We want to do that. We want to do that. It's your fault. It's their fault. It's their fault. It's your fault. That's what I see here tonight. We were elected to represent the people. We are the people's council, not a Conservative council, not a Liberal or a Labour or an Alliance council. We are the People's Council, and we have been failing to do that because we are not operating a council of 39 councillors. The reason that the Alliance struggles is because they've got smaller numbers and they've lost some members, so therefore they have to double up. That's the reality of that bit. Our failure is talking to each other, is not having a council which should have been a true coalition from the beginning, to be honest. That would be my view. However, some people are just not able to let go of their tribal politics and the chains that chain them to their party doctrines. That's where we have failed. We had the opportunity to do something really, really different in this council, but we haven't done that. Now, can we do that moving forward from here? I would hope that we could do that moving forward from here, because if we don't, we continue to fail the people of this island. And that's what I came in here to do. So I listen and I think about the people, and I find myself, actually, I don't want to vote for either of you just at the moment. That's how I kind of feel about it, because actually I don't know what you're offering, because it sounds like you're offering more division instead of togetherness, and it should be together from everybody. You could be a great person in a new cabinet. So could you. So could you. So could people sat up here. The right person for the right job. not the right party person for the right party job. That's what it should be about. So I'm sitting here with great difficulty about how I'm going to vote. I think I need to do what I think is right for the people. And that means that I might have to make a decision that I don't really want to make. But nevertheless, we are here for the people of this island. And that's all that I wanted to say. Thank you.
Councillor Lilly?
Well, following that, I think one of the things that's being worked on, led by Councillor Brodie and Councillor Andrew Gunner, is to change things, to actually change to a committee system as opposed to a cabinet system. So your point about the 39 councillors is we're a small authority in numbers of people. An actual committee system will allow us to actually get over some of the things that you've raised, Councillor Love. The cabinet system does actually put into that. So I think I welcome and I believe, and I will be supporting Councillor Jordan, and I second him, that he will help and support Councillor Brodie and Councillor Garrett, sorry there, to actually work towards that we can give a legacy for 2025 to a new elected set of councillors. Quite a lot of us probably won't be here, but we can actually give a new system or committee system that will actually learn from the acrimony that we've actually had often in this chamber. I believe that we need consistency, and I believe that Councillor Jordan will give that consistency. I do believe he will tackle some of the issues that need tackling, and I have faith in that. I've worked with him for many years regarding Ryde, and Ryde as a town has tackled a lot of the issues and actually brought very strong democracy into that town and actually moved on a lot of the issues of the town. So I do have faith in him. But my last comment is I was elected as a non-Conservative councillor. I might have moved up the line in different directions on the centre left, and that's something between me and the people who elected me, who've always supported that. But I was very, very clear. I have never, ever supported a Conservative administration. And I think we have to put, and I respect Councillor Ellis and some of you, but you are part of a party. You are a part, and you, Councillor Robertson. But you are part of a party that is destroying this country.
Councillor Moster.
Thank you. Councillor Dorr, brilliant. Thank you. You know, that was really well done. But sometimes it's difficult being in opposition, isn't it? You're very lucky you're part of the ruling group. I've said stuff about my ward, and actually the only way I got a reply eventually was to ask Councillor PC Wilcox to follow it up, and then I got a reply. And I get a bit nervous sometimes asking about questions in full council to the response I would get. Once I actually got a straight no, and it was from a parish council. So I think we have to remember that some of us are political with a big P and some of us are political with a small p, but there is politics that rumbles about. I think, Councillor Love, I agree with you the most that actually one of the things I do know that Councillor Ellis has discussed is about the skill sets across the whole chamber, that actually we shouldn't have a cabinet that's made up of all Conservatives or part of empowering people, whoever. It's actually about the skills. We look across the chamber and see people who actually do their job exceptionally well, and those people have been discussed. I don't have a clue who Councillor Ellis would want to put in her cabinet, but I know that it would be cross chamber and people would be picked for their skills. So yes, I do completely agree. But we're 2 years in and it doesn't work the other way, does it? You know, I'm voted. It wouldn't matter if I was wearing green pants, red pants, black pants, blue pants. I'm voted because I'm Councillor Mosdale's, and the locals in my ward know me, and they know that I work hard for them. They don't actually see past any form of politics. So I know we all go, oh, they didn't vote for a Conservative, or they didn't vote for this. Well, actually, lots of people work really hard in elections to get voted for you as the person. But it would be nice, you know, whoever is the leader, that there is actually a cross chamber on what is their skills, because there is as much skill in this side of the chamber as there is in the other side of the chamber, but those skills haven't been used in the last 2 years. So I do agree with you, but actually there is a thing that, you know, they keep it tight and those skills aren't shared. Thank you.
Councillor Brodie.
I wasn't very long with it, was it? Well, thank you, Chair. Back in May 21, I was elected for the 5th time to this council, having hammered a Conservative candidate yet again. 77% of the vote, Andrew, not just over 50 or anything like that. In fact, Tories still stand against me, but all the other parties seem to have disappeared. So, I mean, I've got a consistently strong record of being in opposition to Conservatives. I joined the Alliance for 3 months. I left pretty quickly because I had serious concerns about some of the membership of that alliance, some of those members who aren't members of the alliance anymore because of their attitude to a notorious planning application, and generally their attitude to affordable housing on the island, which is the most important issue for me as a councillor. And since then, I've observed this council being run as if it was being run by, in many ways, as if it was being run by Dave Stewart or David Pugh or Andy Sutton, all leaders when I was on this council with vast majorities. The Alliance, in my view, has never reached out across the chamber, despite the fact they have no majority. And that their numbers have gradually diminished down to 13 now. They're very dependent on 7 politicians, the 4 Lib Dems. Now they've got 4, the 1 Labour, and the 2 Greens, of course, who were always very quiet on the Alliance side of things. But they never reached across. And I agree absolutely with Carl Love, the Vice Chair, you know, that we should be reaching out. And Councillor Mosdale always talks a lot of sense for a Tory. She does she talks a lot of sense because she says it how it is. There is a lot of talent around this chamber that should be used, and it shouldn't just be the people in the back row over there. Now, I have said publicly, I will say it consistently, I have never abstained on a vote in my political life, an important vote. I mean, I might abstain on things that aren't that important to me, but on major votes, and I won't abstain tonight. I've got no intention of abstaining. I'll do precisely what I've always done. I will never vote for a Conservative, and I will vote for Phil Jordan. Now, I do that very cautiously, but I've had a conversation with Phil, and I didn't talk about parochial issues like Ian Dorr or anything. I mean, I get things done in my ward by force of personality as much as anything. But, you know, I've had a conversation with him about school places, about the budget, about affordable housing. And he's given me the sort of answers that I'm hopeful he will deliver to me. And if he doesn't, well, he's going to get a major, excuse me, bollocking from me in this chamber on a regular basis. So I will vote for him. I think Susie's tremendous, but I will vote for Phil. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I think we've come to the end of those who would like to speak. Moving to the votes. Do I have to go back to the proposers? No, go straight to the votes. Just double checking the procedure there. Okay. Are you ready to do the vote?
Thank you, Chairman. I think members are ready to go to the vote. So as members will be familiar with the procedure, what I'll do is I will read out your individual names as councillors, and if at that stage you could please indicate clearly whether or not you're casting your vote for Councillor Jordan or Councillor Ellis, or you're wishing to abstain. Councillor Andre.
Councillor Phil Jordan.
Thank you. Councillor Bacon.
Councillor Jordan.
Thank you. Councillor Dorr.
Councillor Jordan.
Thank you. Councillor Downer.
Councillor Jordan.
Thank you. Councillor Fuller.
Councillor Jordan.
Thank you. Councillor Julie Jones-Evans.
Councillor Phil Jordan.
Thank you. Councillor Jordan.
Councillor Jordan.
Thank you. Councillor Lever.
Councillor Jordan.
Thank you. Councillor Lucioni.
Councillor Jordan. Thank you.
Councillor PC Wilcox.
Councillor Phil Jordan.
Thank you. Councillor Stevens.
Councillor Jordan.
Thank you. Councillor Quigley.
Councillor Jordan.
Thank you. Councillor Garrett. Thank you. Councillor Lilly.
Councillor Jordan.
Thank you. Councillor Sarah Redrup.
Councillor Jordan.
Thank you. Councillor Stewart.
Councillor Jordan.
Thank you. Councillor Beston.
Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. Councillor Brading.
Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. Councillor Churchman. Thank you. Councillor Drew.
Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. Councillor Ellis.
Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. Councillor Henry.
Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. Councillor Mosdell.
Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. Councillor Nicholson. Thank you. Councillor Oliver.
Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. Councillor Outlaw. Thank you. Councillor Peace. Thank you. Councillor Price.
Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. Councillor Quirk.
Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. Councillor Ray Redrup.
Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. Councillor Robertson.
Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. Councillor Ward.
Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. Councillor Brodie.
Councillor Jordan.
Thank you. Councillor Adams. Councillor Jordan. Thank you. Councillor Jarman.
Councillor Ellis.
Councillor Ellis. Thank you. Councillor Medland.
Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. Councillor Spink.
Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. Councillor Love.
Stay.
Okay. And Councillor Critchison.
Councillor Jordan.
Chairman, we have a deadlock 19-19. Thank you. And obviously an abstention.
With a deadlock, I get to use the casting votes and I will use that for Councillor Jordan. I confirm the vote result is 20 for Councillor Jordan with my casting vote and 19 for Councillor Ellis. So Councillor Jordan takes the position of leader of the Isle of Wight Council. I declare that Councillor Jordan is duly elected as executive leader of the council until annual council May 2025. And you've taken your seat, so welcome to the table up here, and we will proceed with the rest of the meeting unless you would say anything at this point.
I'm happy for us to move on, and we've heard lots of comments. I'm sure there'll be plenty of opportunity as we move forward to say lots of things and bring people up to speed and hopefully work together.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 4, which is the public questions. find out what I've got. No written questions have been received, but I do have 2 oral questions this evening. So I'm hoping those people are in the public gallery. Welcome to everyone up there. First one's from Lynn Blackledge. I can see you there, Liz. So would you like to come forward with your question? Thank you.
Thank you. Today, my question relates to one of our cafes in Ventnor, and I'm just going to put a little bit of history because the question won't make any sense without that. So it's the Better Days Cafe in Ventnor. It's a CIC company, so it's a not-for-profit company run by Kirsty Chapman. It's staffed by volunteers and amazing work goes on there. I don't know how many of you know what happens there. There are 8 staff, all volunteers, and in the cafe, Kirsty and her team nurture people with learning difficulties. They teach them skills, they take them and let them wait at table and do various things, sort of training them up. She also provides free food for children, many of whom receive free food in the term time, but wouldn't receive food in the holiday time. She doesn't means test it. So in order to provide the food, she's created a GoFundMe page, and she hoped to raise £500, but was bowled over by the public response, who actually trumped up more than 3 times that figure. So the issue is that Better Days is on the Wight bid levy list and has an invoice of £1,600 a year. Sadly, the CEO of Visit Isle of Wight refuses to discuss this with me. I'm a friend of them, but you know, fair enough. But he won't discuss it with her either. She's heard nothing. I'm aware of this. He said advice has been given, but fails to say who gave advice and to whom, because it certainly wasn't to Kirsty. So anyway, several of the youngsters she and her team have nurtured have gone on to paid work. Bearing in mind these people with learning difficulties. All staff say it's changed their lives. Countless customers have been signposted to services. Benefit advice has been given to dozens. If the cafe were to close because they weren't able to pay this £1,600, mental health services would be inundated as they help so many people with issues. Ventnor would lose an important asset. Kirsty saw a need and built the cafe from scratch with no funding. Ventnor Town Council raised £39,000 for warm hubs, but Better Days Cafe didn't receive a penny of that money raised from the community, so they didn't receive a penny. Next week, they will see if their nomination for a BBC Make a Difference award is successful. So my question is, what provision will be put in place if Kirsty and her team are forced to give up due to the massive levy they are expected to pay?
Thank you, Lynn. I agree. I've been to the Best Days Cafe and they do a lot of really great work there. So I wouldn't want to see them close. And I'd like to know what support as well that might be able to give. So Councillor Andre, would you like to speak on it? You can. I mean, I know if you're happy to.
With respect, Chair, I'm happy to cover off the support angle, but I think the question really focused around the Wight bid. And I think it comes under Councillor Julie Jones-Evans' portfolio, and she may want to give a written response.
Councillor Jones-Evans?
Chair, I think it would be inappropriate to discuss an individual business, especially where the Wight bid is run by, though I am a director of that, I have to represent the local authority. That's part of the Wight bid, that we have a member of who sits with my portfolio, has to be a director of this Isle of Wight. I will raise it with the chief executive of Wight bid, and we'll get a written response. I mean, I can't really give ins and outs to Mrs. Blackledge about a business it's not her business. I understand from what listening in. So, but the question is really about the provision, if there is, they are no longer there, the lack of provision. So that I can't actually answer her question, but I can speak to the Visit Isle of Wight and get them to speak to the business directly.
That's all I'm able to do.
Thank
That's
you,
okay,
Councillor
Chair.
Jones-Evans. I would like, yeah, that would be good if you could take that forward and discuss that. Councillor Andre, would you like to speak?
In terms of the free school meals that Ms Blackledge mentioned, children that are entitled to free school meals, we provide the holiday activities and food programme. And there are programmes that run in Ventnor that those children can access. And I'm more than happy to send details through of the provision that is available within the school holidays for children on free school meals, but also any spare places can be offered additionally to that. So I'm more than happy to send the details through. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms Blackledge, I thank you for bringing this to my attention personally, because I would like to see that business and that sort of community group, thrive. And I know it's helped a lot of people. So we will take that forward and get a written response to that and some examples of ways that perhaps the council can help with funding. Do you have a supplementary to that question?
No, thank you
You'll be
very
happy
much.
with that.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for coming. I have another question from Cameron Palin. Would you like to come forward and ask your question? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Does the new executive leader agree that this evening's vote reiterates the May 2021 local election results, where 63% of islanders voted for an alternative to the Conservatives, and that those independent councillors supporting the Conservatives this evening should stand down and be forced to face their electorate?
I'm not quite sure how or who would answer that question. I think perhaps as we've had a change of leadership, that is. Yes, I don't I don't know how to answer that one. Just coming up with different things every day. Yeah. No, I think perhaps that's not necessary this evening. I think we are moving on in a positive direction and don't need to think about that. So.
Supplementary, if I may. Does the administration agree that being able to work together with a variety of parties currently made up in the administration allows greater representation of islanders rather than a single party, as mentioned this evening, rather than one single ideology? The fact that people are able to work together, as the administration is already doing with Liberal Democrats, Green and Labour, as well as independents, allows them to work together rather than the broken Conservative ideology.
Personally, I think that we have seen quite a lot of working together, and I'd like to see it even further. And I would like to make sure that there is even more working across the chamber. And on that note, personally, I have tried to reach out before and not always been welcomed as much as I could. So I do hope that will be retained. Okay, I can make more cake, so that's definitely an option. I think from that we can move on in a more positive way. Thank you. Okay, now on to item 5. So I've got Chairman's official announcements. Drink. I'd like to start by thanking Lionel Alexander, he's from the Jewish faith, for leading the moment of reflection in the Chairman's room before the meeting this evening. And I welcome anyone who's got any other faiths or beliefs to come and speak, because different speakers for that moment of reflection. So if anyone has any suggestions, I'd like them to come forward that if possible. I was unable to attend many events this summer due to my back injury, but I managed to be present for the service at Trinity Church in Cowes for the unveiling of the plaques in memory of Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth and the late Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. I also attended the memorial ceremony at the Classic Car event in Ryde to remember the organiser Vic Gallucci. Last month, I was honoured to present 2 Duke of Edinburgh awards to sports students at a ceremony held in County Hall in the Chairman's room. So that was really good to support those youth and see that they are achieving. Yesterday, I attended a civic day at the Mayor and Mayoress of Basingstoke and Dean Borough Council, and it was really useful to meet with other mayors and chairs from other councils and representatives. So I found that really useful. The Isle of Wight Walking Festival will be held next month, and I'm glad to report that my walk is already fully booked. So there's tea and cake on that as well. So I will make exceptions for people. So that again will be a fundraiser for the South Wight Area Youth, my charity for the 2 years I'm in post. What you've all been waiting for is to why I have this chap here. So I'd like to introduce my friend that accompanies me. I forgot to bring him to the last meeting. He is a 3D printed replica of Prince Albert, and he was presented to the Isle of Wight Council by our visitors from Coburg in June. And I am planning to return to the twinning favour, the twinning visit to Coburg in December. So if anybody would like to come with me and make a civic group, I'd like that to be cross-party if that's possible. So that would be really nice to be able to celebrate that 40 years anniversary of the twinning. And then I need to thank Councillor Love for attending Isle of Wight Pride, Cows Week receptions and the White and Bloom Awards in his civic capacity while I was unable. He also took part in the cycle ride with Cycle Wight, so thank you to Cycle Wight for organising the ride and the several councillors that did attend to partake in that. So thank you, that's my update. It's quite long at the end, sorry. Right. On to item 6, we have the Leaders Update Report. Due to a change in leadership, this report is, I propose that this is just for noting, and that you will all have read that, and I'll be happy to just note that report.
Noted.
Thank you. Okay, on to item 7. Oh, I know, actually, I can still say it. The chairman is to invite the newly elected leader to make any announcements. Would you like to make any announcements at this stage? I'm thinking it might be, not have much to say, but you never know.
Thanks, Chair. In the old tradition, I haven't prepared anything. I absolutely didn't presume that I'd be sat here. It's really close vote, and it's a demonstration, I suppose, of how difficult it is in this council to get agreement, but I will pledge that I'll do everything I can to work across this council. It's not easy, but I will pledge to try and do that. We certainly will, listening to some of the comments earlier, very important to us as a council, to our staff, to our residents, but we will address some of the key issues. Councillor Brodie mentioned 2 or 3 of the very key issues. We will address them. They have to be addressed, and we will address them. Without making scoring points, absolutely going to try and stop doing that from here on. But the Alliance Cabinet has made, on average, an executive decision every 20 days since it came into office 2.5 years ago. That's a little more than indecisive. So we've made about 50 executive decisions, 45 to 50 executives. You might say that's not enough. I don't know whether it is or not, but we nonetheless have made them on policy and strategy and on some actions. So we are not frightened to make decisions. Why would we be? We're trying to do the best for our island. That's what we're all here for, I guess. When we all stood up and put things through our letterboxes in our walls and said to our residents, vote for me because I'll represent you and I'll try and do the best that I can for you. And we sit in this chamber from time to time, and that's what we should be doing. We should be trying to deliver better outcomes for the island. That's what I'll pledge myself to try and do. And there'll be lots more to come at further meetings, I'm sure. I hope we can have the spirit of working together. I know there are some technicalities from the political parties to join cabinet. That's very difficult for some of the political parties, but we'll find a way. We'll find a way of capturing some of the skill and qualities that are in this chamber. So that's my small pledge to you, unprepared. Maybe I should prepare a speech next time, but there we are. I didn't presume to be sat here. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I'll do my best for you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jordan. Okay, so now we can move on to item 7, report of the monitoring officer, the review of.
Chair, may I just raise
Yes. You're
sorry. Normally, there's a agenda item for questions of the leader, and I note that that's not been on this agenda. Is that by design or by omission? Because I'd quite like to ask our new leader some questions. Yeah, if I could try and be helpful, you can only ask questions of the report that's presented to you, and Councillor Jordan hasn't tabled a report. Well, I think it perhaps depends on the definition of the report. Had Councillor Jordan not said anything, I would agree, but he has reported on his current position.
Councillor Speak, you do have members' questions at the end, which you could use to.
I'm so excited, I couldn't wait.
I think in the interests of this, that there wasn't a leader. The report was the report that was in there, and you have read it, that there isn't an element to be able to ask questions of that leader. So we are moving on to item 7, the report of the monitoring officer, the review of political proportionality and alternative arrangements. There is a chart in your pack with all those names. So Mr. Potter, are you able to elaborate on those changes, please? Thank you.
Yes, certainly, Chairman. Thank you. This report follows on from the by-election last month and the decision by Councillor Sarah Redrup to join the Liberal Democrat group, and that has sort of triggered the need to look at the political proportionality in terms of seat allocation to the various groups, and indeed to the two non-aligned members. Draw members' attention to the recommendation from the Appointments and Employment Committee for an alternative arrangement to facilitate Councillor Richard Quigley to be a co-opted councillor with full voting rights on the Appointments and Employment Committee, notwithstanding what would normally be politically balanced, in order to enable him to participate in that committee in terms of the recruitment and appointment of the Director of Children's Services, so forth. Details which are set out in the report in terms of the recommendation. And obviously it would require no dissenting votes for that particular recommendation to be adopted. The other sort of item, besides the review of the political proportionality figures, is the usual issue of nominations and appointments to the seats which are allocated. The appendix, which was circulated to members at the time the report was published, has subsequently had a few revisions to it. If you indulge me with a couple of very minor points in terms of the appendix, in relation to the Isle of Wight Pension Board item, it should read employer representatives and scheme member reps, but otherwise it's as set out. And for the joint consultative meeting, which is required to be politically proportionate, Councillor Quigley drops off from that and is replaced by Councillor Lilly in terms of the proportionality side of things, which has been agreed by full council. And I've been provided with a list of nominations from the Liberal Democrat group. Are they available for circulation, or shall I read out? Read out, thank you. And if I misspeak, please let me know, Councillor Garrett. So the paperwork before you is obviously as revised. The Appeals Committee Councillor Sarah Redrup is added to the named substitute list for the Liberal Democratic group. Appointments and Employment Committee, Councillor Andrew Garrett. Named substitutes for the Lib Dem group, Councillor Nick Stewart, Councillor Michael Lilly and Councillor Sarah Redrup. Audit and Governance Committee, Councillor Sarah Redrup added to the list of substitutes for that particular group. Corporate Scrutiny Committee, member Councillor Sarah Redrup. Named substitutes, Councillor Nick Stewart, Councillor Michael Lilly. Harbour Committee member, Councillor Andrew Garrett. Named substitutes, Councillor Nick Stewart, Councillor Michael Lilly and Councillor Sarah Redrup. Licensing Committee member, Councillor Sarah Redrup. Pension Fund Committee member, Councillor Nick Stewart. Named substitutes, Councillor Andrew Garrett, Councillor Michael Lilly and Councillor Redrup. Planning Committee, Councillor Sarah Redrup is added to the list of named substitutes. And obviously there'll be, as ever, training given by the council, as we do with any new councillor. The Policy and Scrutiny Committee for Health and Social Care, named substitutes, Councillor Nick Stewart and Councillor Sarah Redrup. Policy and Scrutiny Committee for Neighbourhoods and Regeneration, Councillor Sarah Redrup is added to the name or to the list of named substitutes. As I say, we have Councillor Michael Lilly added to the joint consultative meeting. Those are the nominations put forward by the Liberal Democrat group. And as members will be aware, full council is obliged to give effect to nominations of groups. And that concludes the nominations as far as I'm aware from the Liberal Democratic group. And I'd like to thank them for providing me with the detail. And I just ask members if there are any other sort of changes to the papers which you have before you. I would add, clearly, given the election tonight, where the positions relate to the leader of the council, then by way of office, then clearly that would now go over to Councillor Jordan. So that is as far as I'm aware in terms of the information in front of us. We do still have a vacancy which we're endeavouring to fill in terms of an employer rep from the staff side in relation to the local Isle of Wight Pension Board. But otherwise, I'm in your hands, members. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Potter. I propose that we accept that report. Seconder? No, you've got some comments. Councillor Stewart.
I dissent from the co-option of Councillor Quigley onto the Appointments Committee.
Mr. Potter?
Sorry, thank you, Councillor Stewart. So you're dissenting from the alternative arrangement, which therefore means that that recommendation cannot go forward. So it is a matter of political proportionality, so he will not be added, co-opted onto that committee. Thank you. Councillor Brodie, I think wants to chair.
Councillor Brodie.
Yeah, I want to raise a few things on this, but I find Councillor Stewart's announcement quite disgraceful, frankly. That was a recommendation of the Appointments and Employment Committee. Councillor Quigley chairs the Children's Services Committee, and in the spirit that I thought we were trying to have tonight, Councillor Stewart has immediately undermined that, and I hope people will reflect on that. That's what Liberal Democrats do, and that's politics for you, Carl. Okay? Just to go on to this issue, I have quite a number of concerns about this as an underlying member, and I've tried to get clarity from the monitoring officer about it. But I don't believe the numbers for all the groups on here match the percentages that they occupy on this council. I have explained that to the monitoring officer. He has not satisfactorily explained to me. For instance, in Appendix 1, the Alliance represents 31.67%. You'll see it right at the end of the row for the Alliance, represents 31.67% of all councillors, but they only end up with 30 seats on committees. And that's quite important in terms of political balance. The Conservatives have 38.97, yet it's rounded up to 40. I mean, I always was taught when I went to school that 38.97 was rounded up to 39. But then, you know, I'm just Jeff Brodie from the Northeast, aren't I? You know, I just don't understand why these things happen. I've got no understanding of why things are shuffled down for the smaller groups. I mean, Councillor Quigley again, who the Liberal Democrats seem to have it really in for tonight, Richard. Have you noticed that? They've kicked him off the Corporate Scrutiny Committee now. He chaired that recently. You know, and I mean, he can probably look after himself, but he needs a bother boy, really. You know, but if you need to toughen up, Richard, that's what the Liberals are like. You know, it's they've kicked him off there. I will be voting against this paper. I know it makes doesn't matter to a hill of beans, but I've asked that we do have the vote on the Richard Quigley recommendation. And I would ask that that's a named vote, please, as well, because I think the Liberal Democrats should be exposed for what they're doing tonight. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Brodie. I've got a few others to speak, and then we will discuss which elements of that report will be voted on separately. I've got Councillor Robertson first, I think.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with everything Councillor Brodie said. What a gross selfish act of politicking from the Liberal Democrats. Councillor Quigley is the democratically elected chair of the Children's Services Committee. Regardless of his political party, he should be on the Appointments Committee when that committee is deciding who to appoint to children's services. And I do agree with Councillor Brodie that we should have a name vote. And I strongly advise Councillor Stewart and the Liberal Democrats to stop playing politics and back him.
I've got Councillor Brading next on my list.
Thank you, Chairman. I am part of the appointments panel, and we unanimously agreed that Councillor Quigley was perfectly correct to have on that committee. But my point, I want to raise a point about the audit committee, please. One practical. Can we add Councillor Chris Quirk as a Conservative substitute on the audit panel? I've raised this before. I fail to see how cabinet members can be on the audit committee. You cannot audit yourself. I've raised this last year and I've raised it several times. I cannot vote for a policy where one cabinet member is on audit, 3 others are deputies to audit yourself. So I will not be voting for this policy for that very reason. And I just don't see how that can be, you know, and it does say ideally cannot be cabinet members. It should say, technically well, ideally it should be cannot be. To self-audit is just a mistake by this council. I'm sure the new leader will agree with me on that one. So I would not vote for this policy as it stands.
Okay, that's noted. And Councillor Andre next.
Thank you, Chair. We've heard a lot about cross-party working this evening. Now, as Chair of the Policy and Scrutiny for Children's Services, Councillor Quigley plays a crucial role in the governance of children's services of this authority. And it is only right and proper that he should be on the Appointments Committee for the selection of a Director of Children's Services that is going to be heading up that governance structure. Thank you.
Councillor Ellis.
Thank you, Chair. As Vice Chair of both Children's Policy and Scrutiny for Children's Services and the Appointments and Employment Committee, I'd like to strongly echo what Councillor Brodie and Councillor Robertson have said. We very much felt we wanted Councillor Quigley to be part of this process, and I very much would like this to be a named vote, and I hope that we can get this resolved and get him where he needs to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jarman.
Yes, just for the benefit of completeness here, there are a couple of omissions which we've picked up on the document. One of which is on the policy, which arises on the Policy and Scrutiny Committee for Health and Social Care. And the name against Empowering Islanders there should be Councillor Peter. And on the, if you need last names, and on the Investigation Disciplinary Committee on page 32, overtyped at the bottom somewhat. The empowering islanders there should be Councillor John Medland. If you need last ones. And as with our other submission, the other members of our group should all be named as substitutes on both. Thank you.
Councillor Ellis?
Apologies, we seem to have missed an extra vacancy, which obviously due to the numbers where we're 40, not 39. Please, can we have Councillor Tig Outlaw added to Children's Services Committee? If is that possible? Thank you.
Mr. Potter, have you got all those changes on record there?
Yes, I think. Yes, Chair, I think we've captured those. I think for clarity purposes, if we deal with, I suggest, the matter of the alternative arrangement in terms of putting to the vote, and I understand you want a named vote. Do we have 4 members to ensure named vote? Yep, thank you. So in terms of the first matter to vote on, just to get it clarified, that we deal with the recommendation that Councillor Richard Quigley, as chairman of the Policy and Scrutiny Committee for Children's Services, etc., be temporarily appointed as a co-opted member with full voting rights onto the Appointment and Employment Committee, whilst that committee considers and decides the recruitment and appointment of the Director of Children's Services, including any interim appointment and associated matters. So there's been a request for a named vote on that matter. I think Councillor Stewart wishes to speak.
Councillor Stewart wishes to speak on that.
Good afternoon, Chamber. It should be afternoon, shouldn't it? I put forward that because I believe that proportionality is important, and I can see no reason why these 6 members of the Appointment Committee cannot make their own decision. The recommendation was that Councillor Quigley would be nominated to the committee without voting rights. Voting rights were not mentioned. It is the case that there are other corporate scrutiny committees who could equally claim, such as Councillor Lilly, that he should be on that committee because obviously he covers part of the remit of children's services generally. As far as I am concerned, I see absolutely no reason to break proportionality, and I object, for once, to being accused of being political. I spent my entire career not being political, and as people on my committee, the Scrutiny Committee, know, I take no notice of political affiliations in talking and trying to bring everybody on board. You may make your own decision. I have no problem with standing my decision.
Councillor Brodie.
Just for clarity, Chair, I propose Councillor Quigley should be a member of this appointment. I also proposed that he had voting rights, which is contrary to what Councillor Stewart has just said. I would just also say, I'm sure that Councillor Stewart was elected as a Liberal Democrat. That is a political party the last time I looked. Thank you.
Councillor Robertson.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Stewart seems to be arguing that it's not a political decision, yet he's basing his decision on political proportionality. So he's putting that above committee chair roles in this council. Councillor Love will correct me if I'm wrong, but I recall being on appointments employment when we appointed to health scrutiny. And I seem to remember that special arrangements were made then to put either himself, I think as cabinet member, onto that committee, especially for the appointment of a health, an officer for adult social care. So there is precedent for doing this and overriding political proportionality.
Councillor Lever.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I don't know if I've missed something. I just want to double check. So the recommendation is that Councillor Quigley is temporarily appointed as a cooperative councillor with full voting rights, what happens after that decision's made? Is that part of the recommendation? What?
Through you, Chairman. First of all, we obviously need a seconder to this particular motion. Chairman, you need to select a seconder. So coming back to your point, Councillor Lever, we have a motion which is proposed and seconded. Obviously, I don't want to preempt the outcome of that named vote. So I suggest there's been a request by more than 4 members for a named vote. So let's see how it pans out, and then I'll advise accordingly, if that's okay. Thank you. So members, you have proposed a motion in relation to Councillor Quigley being appointed as an alternative arrangement to the Appointments and Employment Committee, and as Councillor Brodie's confirmed, with full voting rights. So members, if you, when your name's read out, if you could please indicate whether you're for, against, or you abstain in this particular vote. Chairman, shall I proceed to? Thank you.
Yes, proceed to the vote, please.
Thank you. Councillor Andre.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Dorr. Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Bacon, I missed out. Apologies.
I can go if you like. For.
Thank you. And Councillor Dorr is for. Yep. Councillor Downer. Thank you. Councillor Fuller.
For.
Councillor Jones-Evans.
For.
Councillor Jordan.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Lever.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Lucioni.
For.
Thank you. Councillor PC Wilcox. Thank you. Councillor Stevens. Councillor Quigley.
For.
Councillor Garrett. Against. Okay. Councillor Lilly. He's gone. Okay. Thank you. Councillor Redrup.
Abstain.
Councillor Stewart.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Beston.
For.
Councillor Brading.
For.
Councillor Churchman. Councillor Drew.
For.
Councillor Ellis.
For.
Councillor Henry. Councillor Mosdell. Councillor Nicholson.
For.
Councillor Oliver.
For.
Councillor Outlaw. He's gone. Yeah. Councillor Peace. Councillor Price.
For.
Councillor Quirk. Councillor Ray Redrup.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Robertson.
For.
Councillor Ward. Councillor Brodie.
For.
Councillor Adams. Councillor Jarman. Councillor Medland.
For.
Councillor Spink.
For.
Councillor Love.
For.
Councillor Christensen.
For.
Thank you. Because we have had 2 votes against the recommendation, then this alternative arrangement cannot be passed, because by law under the Local Government and Housing Act 1989, alternative arrangements need to be voted through without any dissent. So that motion fails.
Chair.
Councillor Love.
May I ask the monitoring officer, is there an alternative way around that?
No, the short answer.
I think we'll move on to the next item at this stage.
Jim?
Mr. Potter.
Chairman, yes, that matter's obviously been dealt with. If I come back to Councillor Brodie's point about proportionality and the figures and so forth, refer members obviously to the body of the report itself, where there are statutory principles which have to be applied. And the first principle is obviously that not all seats on a particular body are allocated to a single political group. That's clearly understood. The second principle is that, subject to the first principle, the number of seats on the ordinary committees are allocated to each political group effectively proportionately, so that the total number of those seats on the ordinary committees reflect that proportion. But the difficulty, as Councillor Brodie has mentioned, when you're dealing with mathematics, then you're dealing with whole numbers, and they're progressively, as you're applying the principles, then they are sort of distorting the overall proportionality, and that's why sort of we end up with the figures we have. And the third and final principle is basically in relation to the bodies which aren't ordinary committees, when then the proportion is the total number of seats on each of those bodies. There is a bit of a wriggle room in terms of the figures sometimes as to, well, which group should have a seat on which committee, when the numbers effectively could be either one committee or another committee. And an example of that, obviously, I think was the status quo recommendation in terms of Councillor Quigley remaining on the scrutiny committee, and Councillor Lilly remaining on the health and social care scrutiny committee. But it is the application of the figures where local authorities are required, as far as practicable, to make those figures work. And that's the explanation. It might not be a explanation which is helpful, but we're given what we're given by Parliament in terms of the application of the principles in that sequence, and therefore the calculations have been based on that. Thank you. So I think Councillor Brady, could you remind me your query as well?
Well, yeah, my query was, or the audit committee should not have members of the cabinet self-auditing themselves. For that reason, I won't vote for this policy. But I just, for the message from the chair, it'd be nice to have one council meeting this year where we don't spend half an hour talking about committee membership proportionality. Can we just move to the vote and get some important issues we need to discuss further down the line, please?
I quite agree with you, Councillor Brodie. Councillor Brodie.
And I was going to say almost exactly the same. And we spent over half an hour on this. We spend over half an hour on every full council. We never used to do this. All of this was sorted out behind the scenes. I would ask you, new leader of the council, can you do something to stop this happening at every full council, please? Because frankly, I'd rather go home and watch my fantastic Sunderland beat Blackburn Rovers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Brodie. I think we did mention this at the last council meeting, so I would like to see that happen as well. Yeah. What are we voting? Could you just remind us, Mr. Potter, what we're voting on?
I think, Chairman, if I just quickly, obviously I don't want to take anyone's more time up, but just quickly answer Councillor Brady's point. Totally agree that in terms of audit and governance, members should try to avoid appointing cabinet members to serve in the audit and governance committee. I think from memory, it was only altered because a few years ago, because of difficulty in getting people to serve. The guidance from SIPFA is definitely to avoid, appointing cabinet members. And obviously, where cabinet members have ended up being appointed, then it is very much incumbent upon those cabinet members to be absolutely alert to potential conflicts of interest and to stand down if there are conflicts of interest. That's all I have to say, other than obviously I will work with members to try to make sure that we have nominations ready for any subsequent meeting if this rises again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Potter. I'm looking forward to starting on audit. So that's. Could you remind us what we're voting on?
Yes, certainly. Bear with me. We have two remaining items to deal with. That's the review of political proportionality subject. Well, the alternative arrangements have now gone down. So effectively, the motion should be invited that the review of political proportionality be agreed, and that the nominations and appointments set out in Appendix 2, subject to the revisions expressed tonight, be approved. So there's two proposed motions which need to be put by members, not by me, proposed and seconded, and then obviously voted according to your wishes. Thank you.
Okay, I propose we vote on those. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Medland?
I'm happy to second that.
Thank you. So we can now move to the vote. Can we do that by affirmation? I think we could do a show of hands for those in favour of that, please. Anyone against? Councillor Brodie and Councillor Pearce, and any abstentions? Those. Okay, I think that's carried. Thank you. Is that all on that item, Mr Potter?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, thank you.
Right, I think we all deserve a break at this point. At least 10 minutes, a good 10 minutes. So back at pardon? 7:48 or 7:50. Back by 7:50, please. Thank you. All returning. Is that everyone back? Nope, we've still got a few stragglers. We've got everybody that is remaining. We will start with what we've got. It is on to item 8, the report of the former cabinet member for Children's Services, Education and Lifelong Skills. The Isle of Wight Youth Justice Plan. Councillor Andre, would you like to speak on this report? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to speak indeed. In presenting the Isle of Wight Youth Justice Service Annual Justice Plan, I would like to thank the officers who have worked incredibly hard to bring this plan to Council. The purpose of the report is to present this Isle of Wight Youth Justice Service Plan for endorsement of the plan by full Council, which is required in accordance with Regulation 4 of the Local Authorities Functions and Responsibilities England Regulations 2000. I would just like to highlight that the paper is effectively a summary of the plan itself, and I'm sure members will be aware, having received the papers, the full plan is included at Appendix 1 on page 47 of your pack. There's just a couple of items that I would like to highlight in the report. The first one, which is something that is very much part of our corporate priorities, is highlighting the voice of the child. And at 3.1 of the paper, it says, the voice of the child is heard through the collaborative process in completing the assessment, a co-produced plan and intervention cycle of delivery. And I think that is absolutely one of the tenets of the plan, that the voice of the child is absolutely central and embedded within the process. Another thing I would like to draw your attention to is the service delivery plan, which is at item 15, which identifies the work which we will be focusing on in the next 12 months. This is not the full detailed plan, but early identification of the areas that we will be focusing on. So, without further ado, would you like me, Chair, to go to the recommendation?
Yes, please.
Thank you. That the Isle of Wight Youth Justice Plan 2023-24 be endorsed. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor PC Wilcox. Councillor PC Wilcox, would you like to speak on that? No? Anyone else like to speak on that? Okay. We should go to the vote on that then. Did you wish to come back on that before, actually, Debbie? No, you're happy?
Thank you. I'm quite happy to go to the vote.
So can we do the vote by affirmation? Is all those for that plan? Anyone against? Any abstentions? Is that 2? And 2 abstentions. That is carried. Thank you very much. On to item 9. These are the motions submitted, and we're on item 9A, and this is by Councillor Debbie Andre as well. Would you please introduce your motion?
Thank you, Chair. At the risk of this part of the meeting becoming the Councillor Andre show, I would like to speak to this motion. The motion was originally due to come to the last meeting, but I would highlight that the bid that is included in the motion for endorsing has not been submitted, and therefore this motion is still relevant. When I was 7, at my primary school, we had a new head. That head was very, very keen that every child in the school would have access to learning music and a musical instrument. At the age of 7, I learnt to read music and I learnt the recorder. The following year, I was given the opportunity to learn the violin. Apparently, I picked it up quite quickly. So I carried on with that. Within 6 months, I was playing in a youth orchestra. 2 years later, I added viola to that. Throughout my schooling, through youth orchestras, I travelled abroad. I took part in a music festival up in Scotland, and it carried through into my adult life, where I actually played in a semi-professional London orchestra for 15 years prior to coming to the island. Music has been the golden thread that has run throughout my life. I am very grateful to that head for giving me that opportunity, and I want every child on this island to have the same opportunity for music that I had. Our music provision is provided by Southampton and the Isle of Wight Music Hub. You have the detail before you. Just to highlight, they currently work with 100% of our schools and settings across the island to some capacity. And their hub programme of activities this year alone has reached close to 7,500 children, which is nearly 50% of the Isle of Wight's school population. In supporting this, endorsing this bid, it comes with no cost to the Isle of Wight Council. It is directly funded through the DFE and the Arts Council. So I ask that this council endorses Southampton and Isle of Wight Music Hub's bid for funding from the DFE and Arts Council England to be the hub lead organisation for our geographical region. And this comes with the proviso that the Isle of Wight has equal representation as part of the larger geographical area. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Andre. Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Ellis, would you like to speak on that? No, you're happy to be a seconder. And would you like to come back on that, Debbie? No. And can we, oh, sorry, I couldn't see you, Councillor Quigley. Would you like to speak?
I think we probably ought to hear Councillor Andre play before we back this. No, I am joking. Just to say, actually, and this is something Councillor Churchman has said many times, I think it gets lost, is that the arts, culture and sports and similar activities are important for all children, but especially important for SEN children. So I couldn't recommend this motion any higher.
Councillor Love.
Thank you. Councillor Quigley beats me to it in terms of making the point. I was slightly worried that you were going to burst into song for a few minutes in the emotion, but I think it's important to also recognise that, you know, we have Platform One, we have some fairly major performing arts on this island, which this backs onto, and of course the island is a tourist island, and so this is quite an important element of it. I think the real thing is it's about enabling young people to develop the skills, and everybody develops in different ways, and some might be good at English, but others might be fantastic at music and arts and the different performing arts. So therefore I would be supporting that.
Thank you, Councillor Love. Is there anyone else like to speak on that? No. Back to Councillor Andre. Would you like to say anything, or happy to go to the vote?
Happy to go to the vote, Chair.
Okay, can we vote on that by affirmation? All those for that motion? Thank you. Anyone against? Any abstentions? No, that motion is carried. Thank you. We move on to item 9B. This is a motion by Councillor Love. So I invite you to introduce yours.
Thank you, Chair. Again, this was an item that was meant to be on a previous agenda. I brought this motion for a number of different reasons, really. Really to bring some clarity to the current situation, and to provide some guidance to the, sorry, I was going to say not the employment, the steering group and the officers moving forward. So essentially, this motion brings to bear to support some of our most low paid and unpaid staff in this council, bearing in mind that we had some alterations to the parking permit scheme during COVID. So what I'm proposing is that the parking permit scheme be amended to reflect the modernisation of this slimline workforce. We have got workers here who go above and beyond, who work at all times of day and night. Very few of us nowadays work simply from 9 till 5. We all interact and inter-exchange our personal and working affairs. And this policy is what I would want to see changed. Bearing in mind that there has been some confusion for some staff. Some staff have been caught out with the parking permit previously. And it's not going to cost a lot of money, because in actual fact, this parking permit scheme saves the council thousands in administration and all of the accounting processes that go with it. I don't think it's fair to say to staff that you can only park strictly when you're working, and who's to make that judgment about when you're working and not working in this interchangeable world. So therefore, that's why I have brought this, to give some guidance. I believe that staff should be able to use the long stay car parks with the permit that they purchase here, as is necessary moving forward. I'm not going to say any more about that.
Thank you. I ask for a seconder at this point. Councillor Ward. Or, okay. Councillor Ward, did you want to speak on it? Sorry, I had Councillor Mosdale before you, but I wasn't sure if she was asking a question or if she wanted to second it. So you're happy for Councillor Ward to? Yeah, okay, thank you. Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Chairman. I fully support Councillor Love's motion here. For those of you who've been around long enough, I was the cabinet member when the £50 parking permit came in for staff and members and other volunteers, you said, and people who used to work with the council. It was very popular, but the crunch was, as Councillor Love said, can you imagine how many parking claims had to be processed every month for the staff? And the permit did away with all of that, saved all that manpower. So it is a good scheme. It does save money. So thank you, Councillor Love, for bringing it forward.
Councillor Mosdale.
Thank you. Councillor Love, I completely agree with you. When I was cabinet member for 4 years, I spent more discussions with the NHS about shared workforce. How do we encourage people to come work on this island? How do we acknowledge carers? How do we acknowledge our social workers? People look at this council and they think traffic warden, or they think the man, having their bins empty. But what people forget is actually your children's services social workers, your carers, all of those, they work for this council. We have these joint conversations with the NHS more times than I care to imagine. But what we don't actually do is that list of what we can do to encourage people to move here and work on the island in those gaps that we need. And actually, I would like to see this expanded, that it's something that if someone comes to work on the island and goes to work in care in a joint position, that actually they can have that as a perk for moving over and helping it. I don't want to hear one of our social workers that's come actually, done a 12-hour shift, done some really harrowing stuff, and then they get told off, well, on the way home, you can't park in that car park to get your shopping because technically you're not working now. It just doesn't seem right to me. This isn't the easiest of jobs that they do, and this is a small thing. So what that, some gentleman, his wife might use the car once in a blue moon, and it's used as a bit of a perk. Well, have that bit of a perk, because actually they don't get paid a huge amount of money, and some of our staff work in some really difficult situations. So yeah, I just think leave it be, and actually haven't the traffic wardens got better things to do than actually find out if someone works with the council, is getting their sarnie or not getting their sarnie, or working? I just don't get it personally. Point of order, Councillor Brodie?
I have absolutely no problem with this motion, but I'm just a little puzzled that we're having a debate about it. Because I've brought motions into this council numerous times which have financial implications, and they're deferred until the next full council so that the cabinet consider it. If this is what's happening now, are we going to see a constitutional change in the future? And I won't have motions that have financial implications deferred for 2 months. Perhaps we could have some clarity on that. Thank you.
Councillor Brodie, I was advised that it didn't have financial implications and that we could go to the vote on it. It was recommended that it went to the JCM board because it does have terms and conditions implications, but not that it would have to go through that channel, that it could be voted on.
Could I have clarity? Sorry, Carl. Could I just have clarity as to who gave that advice? Because I find this fascinating, because I've been knocked back numerous times. For example, the very popular motion last month regarding the future governance working group, which I'm currently leading on, that was put back for 2 months so that the cabinet could offer no comments about it, and it just delayed the whole process. It means that we're pressed against time now on that motion from what it originally was. Thank you.
I thought there could be financial implications. Mr. Potter, would you like to give confirmation of the
Yes, certainly, Chairman.
process?
And thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Brodie. This sort of particular motion, there is discretion in the chair under Part 4A, Section 9, to refer it to JCM or to some other committee meeting and so forth. There's also an alternative, which is the matter which I think Councillor Brodie's referred to, under Part 4A, Section 10, which is indeed where a motion involves expenditure. And I think there's the issue then is whether it's significant expenditure to trigger that particular matter. My advice on this situation is that any chairman of the council, by using Part 4A, Section 9, to refer it to a cabinet or a committee or joint consultative meeting to get union input and to allow the head of paid service to look into the matter, they can do that. And if they did that, that would avoid any argument or discussion as to whether it would be significant expenditure or not. So the mechanism does exist for the matter to be carefully looked into from all aspects. If there is an issue in terms of being satisfied that there are significant expenditure issues which need to be looked into, then it can be done under section Part 4A, Section 10, or alternatively Section 4A, Section 9, simply referring it. Or if it's left to members tonight, then I would be advising, and I am advising members, that unless you're clear as to the financial implications of it being passed or indeed not being passed, then the matter ought to be referred for that information to be made available. Thank you.
I think it's valid that it was spoken about and that people had their views listened to this evening. But Councillor Love, do you want to come back on it at this stage?
Yes, I want to address. There are no financial implications for what I'm suggesting. It's merely continuing the scheme as it is with a slight amendment to it, which is that staff currently can be can be given a ticket for parking in a car park where staff have to make decisions or to seek and use more time, so the time could be used better. That is the time of the parking warden having to go and find out whose vehicle that is, that's time, versus the time of the £1 or £2 that might go in the machine, for which they already have paid a fee, and it is not clear within our constitution how much of the parking fee that they currently pay. I believe it's somewhere in the region of about £15. Is that per month? Correct. How much of that is for County Hall and how much of that is for long stay parking when they're out in the community? So we could get really technical with this, or we could just do a very simple. It does not affect the income of this council and benefits this council hugely, or simply the workforce could start putting money into the machines and charging the council back for something which they've already paid for. They could do that, could the workforce, if they chose, and then we would have to employ more staff, and that would have a financial implication, a negative financial implication. So let's have some sense and sensibility. That's why I brought that here.
I'm not challenging the motion, so I could do without the vice chair's attitude. I'm asking a very important issue here regarding our constitution. You know, that if in future I bring a motion for the financial, which I consider has minor financial implications, does that mean we debate it tonight? That's all I'm asking. Okay.
I had asked that question myself beforehand, Jeff, and was told that it didn't, but I'm getting different advice tonight that it potentially does. So, but I don't, listening to Councillor Love, I don't feel like that was the sort of implications that that was necessary. You know, he was not looking at it in a financial implication viewpoint. So I think that if we do go to the vote on that, it would be that it does still go to the JCM board to be, just even if we could agree with it, but with that, what's the word? Sorry, Councillor Moss, I remember everything. Amendment, it's amendment, it's my. I think Councillor Love wants it to be discussed, and I think that's very valid. So if we had an amendment that it went to JCM, would you be happy for that?
I want it to go to JCM with the recommendation that what we agree from here. So we would vote on it, and then it would go to JCM for them to carry forward.
I had a list of people that wanted to talk, so I've got Councillor Robertson first, and then I had Councillor Robertson.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sure this motion comes from a very good place, Councillor Love, and clearly there are problems with the current scheme, but it is a discount parking permit scheme that councillors also benefit from. And the effect of this proposal is that the permit is no longer assigned to a councillor or staff member because of their job, but assigned to a car, and more than one car that they may be using. And it legitimizes and allows for family members of that councillor, be it spouses, be it people they live with, be it adult children, to use that car for pleasure, for private purposes, park it across the island at a discounted rate. I don't think that's acceptable when it's this council that's also putting up parking charges for ordinary islanders. I'm sure that's not the intention behind what Councillor Love is doing, but I have a serious problem with councillors allowing that to happen. I think it applies to employees as well. Why should someone, just because they're employed by the council, get to have, should their families benefit from parking all over the island with unrelated, for purposes completely unrelated to their mother or father's job on the council? And for that reason, I think the wording needs to be looked at again to make sure that not only employees, but particularly councillors' families cannot use this permit for pleasure. It is here for the councillor when they are on councillor business. Thank you.
Also had Councillor Bedrop. Which one was I didn't catch? Was it Sarah? Thank you.
Hi, thank you. I think my question was already answered, but I'll ask it anyway because I'm a little bit unsure. For this motion to be put forward, and Councillor Love is saying there will be savings, I just feel a bit unsure voting on it when I can't see that for certain. I'm taking it as your word. And also I need to bear in mind, and we all need to bear in mind, that we represent people who are very hardworking and pay for permits who aren't council workers. And they may see this as us using our position to benefit ourselves when they don't get, you know, there's also parking penalty notices as well, which does factor into the council income. So I would like to see some more detail before I were to vote on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lever.
Thank you, Chair. And I think I'm going to echo Councillor Redwood's and also Councillor Robertson's comments. I think I don't disagree with the spirit of the motion, Carl. It's just I need that detail. If Councillor, the Chair, sorry, has been told it didn't have financial implications, but then it seems it might. So I can't vote on something if there's not certainty there. So I'd like that certainty before we do.
Councillor Jarman.
Forgive me if I've got this completely wrong. We established a staff and allies, let's call it that, because it includes councillors and others, parking permit, which they can buy every month. I'll confess I'm one of the people that buy it every month. And what that enables me to do is to park in the long-term car parks and in the inner car park here as I move around the island doing my business. Now, and that's the system today, which I believe is what this motion largely covers. That system today isn't to me as an individual, it is to my car. And at the moment, when my car is in the garage and I've got a loaner, a very kind loaner from Price's Garage, a little bit of free advertising there, I have to add that other car temporarily to that permit, and then I can carry on using that car. So there is nothing here that intrinsically links me as an individual. It is the car, and that is the essence of what Councillor Love's motion is. It is that anybody, yes, technically anybody could use that car and park in the inner car park, because that's the way that parking works. Whether you're at Lidl's, or whether you're in the inner car park, or whether you go to a parking position in the town and buy a parking ticket and stick it in the windscreen, it is nothing to do with the individual. It is everything to do with the vehicle which is displaying that valid ticket or which has a valid permit. So that's the way parking works. There's no big change here. There's nothing complicated about it. The change would come if we tried to abandon that scheme to limit it so that effectively staff and care workers and others would have to start paying in the meters, collecting those tickets up, bundling them on a whatever basis and sending them into the council, and somebody would sit there validating that that was actually on official time, that they were on official business, and reimbursing them on expenses. That would seem to be an inordinately difficult way to proceed, rather than the system that we already have today, which works very well. And I agree to Councillor Robertson's comment. There is the possibility that people would abuse that. Not in my case, because my wife doesn't drive. But yes, it would be technically possible for somebody else to drive my car and put it in the car park with that car-based permit. Doesn't happen, but it could technically happen. And I believe that the cost of introducing an alternate scheme with individual tickets and expensive would be prohibitive compared with the system we have today. So we're not looking at any big change here with Councillor Love's motion. We're looking at a continuance of what is an established working arrangement that saves the council the time and expenses of putting in multiple expense claims.
Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to put some counter to Councillor Robertson's concerns, really, about council staff getting perks. Lots of companies give their staff perks. I used to work for London Transport. I got a free bus pass. I could go on the tubes. No compulsion to go to work or anything like that. It was just a free pass that I could use. And if I had a family, they all got a pass as well. And and there was no connection with going to work. This was a perk that you and your family got. Same with Island Line. Their staff get exactly the same. So to say, oh, you should be penalised, you shouldn't be allowed a perk, I think is unfair on our staff. And Councillor Redrup's concern about, I can't see where the saving is. But if you consider what Councillor Jarman just said, we used to, every month, fill in a form to claim back our mileage and our tickets for parking and things like that. And it was a huge cost. So that's all been done away with. We didn't lose any money because the council reimbursed us. Oh, that's where and now it doesn't reimburse us. We've got a permit, we get a discount, end of story. It is a good scheme.
Thank you. Councillor Dorr.
Thank you, Chair. Everyone's put up some really good points. Councillor Morsdale, the two Joes, thanks. Councillor Redrup as well. I think this comes back to originally what Councillor Brodie said. If there are financial implications, given the position that this council is in, we should see the workings for it. The spirit is absolutely fantastic and it's spot on. And I completely support that. However, we should look at the finances and do a quick fag packet calculation on it, an in-depth calculation on it. I'd find it very difficult just to put my hand up for it with the position we're currently in. Thank you.
Councillor Robertson, did you want to come back? No. Okay. I think the confusion is, Councillor Love, over what the difference in this scheme would be to what we've already got. Because I don't think there's any intention of going back to a paper system that Councillor Ward refers to. So what is sort of the issue? I think that's what we're lacking.
Made. We we're not looking for savings. They've been made already over the years.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to clarify from Councillor Love what's the intention of what's different to what we've already got.
What's different is our staff have been receiving notifications from their managers very directly telling them that they cannot use the long stay car parks for anything which is other than non-business. And I'm arguing, as has already been said, that this is a different world that we live in, where one minute I might pop out to Lidl's and do a job while I'm there, and one minute I won't. This is not a perk. This is not a perk at all. It never has been. This is about how we retain our staff, how we support our low-paid staff, and it's them that use this car park quite a lot when they come here and have to leave their cars here whilst they then go off in the electric vehicles. They haven't any choice about where they have to park. They've got to park here somewhere. So the point is, I'm happy for it to go to the JCM, but with a recommendation that we support the current system and that we do not fine our own staff for parking when there are other times. This idea that people are just going to go and use it and abuse it is just mythical,
Councillor Brodie.
Thank you, Chair. Right, I've been listening to all of this and thought more deeply about it than when I was first raised the points of order. And I have to say, I mean, we're sat here talking about something, and I imagine the media at the back. I can just see the headline on this, and I'm just imagining how that'll go down with the residents in my ward. The most deprived ward on the Isle of Wight, and we're giving out, further benefits to people who are funded out of the council tax they find very hard to pay every month, who many of the residents are chased by the legal team and have bailiffs knocking at the door and stuff like that. And I wonder how I can justify that. I won't vote for it tonight. I'm happy to see a proper look at it. I'm quite happy if it, with Ian's suggestion that it's the back of a fag pack, and I don't want weeks spent on it or anything like that, but just some picture of what we're doing. Because I think it's a bit half-baked. Sorry, Carl, but it's a bit half-baked, this motion. So I will be voting against it, but just think about that. We're not talking about housing tonight. We're not really talking about school places tonight. We're not talking about the budgetary situation. We're talking about extending staff permits for parking, you know, and after all the other nonsense about places on committees for 40 minutes, you know, I mean, really, you know, the match is nearly finished now. It's not going to say that either. Yeah, so let's get up.
Robertson, did you want to come back on that or move on?
I just genuinely think this council is walking into something it doesn't understand what it's doing. We cannot possibly vote for councillors' families to benefit from the fact they work for the council by having free parking during or discounted parking during shopping trips that's not available to everyone else on the island. I work for a charity. There are financial arrangements that allow me to travel and claim it back. It's outrageous to think that my wife would benefit from my work for a charity. Why should she or any of my other family members registered on my car benefit from the fact I'm a councillor too?
Councillor Garrett.
Thank you, Chair. Both councillors Brodie and Robertson have made very coherent points as to why we can't proceed with this motion tonight. As I see it, I absolutely understand the spirit of it. Colleagues who were here a couple of months ago will have heard the question from the public gallery, from a member of the public who was querying why he had to spend a certain sum of money, but why council employees enjoyed a significant reduction in the amount that they were charged. And Councillor Jordan, I believe you gave then as cabinet member a response to him on that. The thing is, I don't think there's enough detail here. I am not a tax lawyer, but a perquisite for His Majesty's Revenue and Customs is not just some, oh, that's nice, something you just got an extra cake or whatever. It's a thing that they come sniffing around, isn't it? So I would, if I were a member of the council's employment, be wondering, actually, do I have to declare something now? About will this cause me problems? Councillor Robertson, you're absolutely right, and I've known in the past in other councils where councillors' spouses were enjoying the benefit of their loved ones' election to the council, and that would be wrong, and we mustn't send that sort of signal. But one signal this is saying is, if you're a car owner, we want to obviously recognise that you work very hard for the council, and we want to perhaps give you a little bit more benefit. And I don't see anything wrong with that. But where does this cut come for those people who don't use their car? The people who use their bicycle, they walk, they take the bus, because they, for various reasons, have decided the car is not their mode of transport. How do we gain equity under this proposal for those members of staff and say, actually, we should be recognising your diligence and hard service beyond? And I think we're really looking at something about the pay policy in some depth at some point. And what I'd really like to hear is, what do the staff's representatives feel about the benefits that they enjoy as employees of the council? I'm very pleased now to be able to rejoin Joint Consultative Committee, where I will be able to hear from union representatives on all of these sorts of matters. So I'm afraid, through you, Chair, Councillor Lover, I would not be able to support this motion as it is worded tonight.
Councillor Bacon.
Thank you. During the break earlier, I had to go upstairs and take a couple of paracetamol because I was getting a headache, and I thought it was going away, but it seems to be coming back. I very much concur with what, well, a number of speakers, but particularly Councillor Brodie and Councillor Garrett have said. We seem to have gone around the houses. It's no change. It is a change, but it's a minor change. But it is a change that could have financial implications. And I think I heard the Chief Executive saying that to you, Chair. I have no idea what I'm voting on at the moment, and I'm not going to vote on it as a result. Again, I absolutely get the spirit of this. But I don't think we can even make a recommendation without knowing if there is a financial impact, what that is, are there any union implications, all the points that Councillor Garrett went through. So I would personally be much more comfortable if we could just refer it firstly and bring it back when we have, as Councillor Garrett says, that information. And again, it goes back to the point Councillor Brodie said pretty much at the outset of this. If there's a financial implication, it needs to be referred elsewhere to understand that. And I think it's plain from the discussion here, we don't understand that. I hold the financial brief here at the moment, or have been, and I'm not happy with this going forward without, or anything like this, without more information. I think we must, for any decision we can make on this, and sorry to say this, Carl, but I think we must refer it to get that understanding, and then hopefully we can push it through once we know what the effect is. But we can't do it without that, and it should just be referred without further debate, I would suggest.
I have Councillor Lever on my list. I will give him a voice since he's been waiting. Councillor Lever.
I don't want to
No,
delay this any further.
same
I was going to make the same point as Councillor Bacon, that we just move this on, refer it if possible.
Councillor Love, listening to the valid points, and I'm glad you brought this motion forward, because I think it does need to be discussed. But I think based on all those different elements and what implications it has to staffing and the union side, that we should refer it to JCM and then bring it back with more information. Would you be okay with that? Given the
No, but it's your decision.
it is. I would like to make that decision, that I think, looking at it in the wider context, that we shouldn't vote on it at this point. So I'm sorry, Councillor Love, I do think it was lots of valid points, and that we did need to listen to them and find out how people did feel about it to know.
Point of order, Chair. I think we have a motion which is duly seconded. I believe we have to vote on it, do we not?
I've got too many people talking at the moment. So
I was just going to add, Chair,
Sure.
what a fine example of what we've discussed earlier this evening. Every person from each different party has aired a view, and this is how it should be. I think the last 20 minutes, it's been excellent. It's been really good debate, and we've come to a conclusion. It's not quite what Councillor Love was hoping for, but between us, everyone is inputted. Long may it continue.
So on the technicality of whether we have to vote now, that could be Councillor Love's decision, because he could say that he agrees to that going to JCM, I believe. But I will ask Mr. Potter for clarification on that.
Thank you, Chairman. Looking at the particular rule parts 4A, section 9, motions on notice, it says any motion, the subject matter which comes within the province of Cabinet or any committee or board may, after it has been moved, and on the decision of the chairman, be referred without discussion to the Cabinet or relevant committee or board, or referred without discussion to such meeting as the chairman may decide, or dealt with at the meeting at which it is moved.
I felt like it did need to be discussed, because I didn't want to move that without discussion, not knowing the implications and how people's feelings on it. But I'm not quite sure where that leaves us now that we have a motion on the table. I'll take that decision. I will take that we are referring it to JCM, and we will bring it back with more information on the implications for staff and finance. Thank you. Moving on to our last item, which is item 10. It is oh, sorry, I've got another item. I believe that's being removed, withdrawn. The other item was being withdrawn. Oh. Councillor Mosdale. Okay, no problem. Right, so I'm on to item 10, members' question time of the leader and the cabinet, and we have a written question first, though, and I believe I have to go to that first, Councillor Mossy. I'm sorry. So, Councillor, a written question from Councillor Sarah Redrup. Would you like to read your question out for us? Thank you.
Thank you. So my written question is,
while we've all been distracted this month, the Isle of Wight's only island-based charity providing support for victims of domestic violence closed after 32 years. That was Wight Dash. There is now just one counsellor who travels from the mainland 1 day a week to provide face-to-face sessions for survivors of sexual and domestic violence. One counsellor, 1 day a week to serve a whole island with a wait list currently of 6 months. What changes would the Cabinet member like to see to improve access to services for victims provided on the island?
Thank you. Councillor
thank-
Jordan, would you like to?
Thank you, Chair. I'll give you a response that's from the Cabinet member that has left to go home. If you're not aware, Councillor Stevens has had a fall and cracked his ribs, and he's in a good deal of pain and discomfort. So this is his response. The U-Trust, called Paragon for Domestic Abuse Services, have been commissioned to deliver domestic abuse and sexual violence services since 2018 on the Isle of Wight. They've recently been awarded the new contract to provide domestic abuse services from October 2023 for up to 7 years. The specifications for both their current and future contract include island-based services to adults and children and young people in relation to domestic abuse, refuge and safe accommodation, community outreach, training and awareness raising, group work and counselling. Counselling forms one aspect of a holistic range of approaches to supporting victims and survivors of domestic abuse. And for context, Wight Dash have not been commissioned by the Isle of Wight Council to provide domestic abuse services since 2018. That's the response from the Cabinet member.
Do you have a supplementary question?
So I am aware that Wight Dash weren't commissioned, but what the aim and the spirit of that question was about there being a physical place on the island where survivors could go to. So the point about the counsellor was that the U-Trust and Paragon are both based in Fareham. They're based on the mainland. So they travel over to the island, and I have heard that the refuge that's supported by them doesn't have staff on weekends and after hours. So my supplementary question is, what will be the changes to that to improve a physical space for people to access on the island? Not phones, not Zoom calls, but physical place, a drop-in centre or counsellors based on the island that live on the island that work here, not people coming from the mainland. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. What the answer to that will be that we will refer this to the Director of Public Health, who's responsible. And in addition to that, if you wish, we will link you directly with the Director of Public Health for further information, detailed information in answer to that question, if you're happy to do that. And we'll do that outside this meeting. Pleasure.
I have Councillor Mosdale next, and I'm guessing, I think I could guess your question, but go ahead, Councillor Mosdale.
Bet you can't. Councillor Jordan, having struggled in the past, but now you're Mr. Sweetness and Light, now you're the new leader, you're always giving like an aura of cuddliness sat up there at the front. I'm really looking forward to this cross-chamber working. Could I ask you that the Conservatives have the same, because on your council website, there's no phone number for you, but I'm sure the Alliance have the number of your back phone, now your leader. Could we have a number that we could contact you? I don't expect it to go into the public domain, but it would be really useful if we ever have something urgent that we can contact you with. And I really look forward to the announcement of your cross-chamber cabinet. Thank you.
I didn't announce cross-chamber cabinet just yet, but I thought my phone number was on my website page, but if it isn't, I'll correct that.
No,
I accept that it's not. I thought it was. Absolutely no reason why anyone shouldn't have that number in this chamber. That opens it up to the public, but that's okay also. Absolutely, yeah, have my phone number. I might ask you not to call me at 6:30 in the morning if you can, Claire, but other than that, call me anytime.
I don't think I'll be
As I
thinking
said-
of you at 6:30 in the morning, but you know.
Councillor Spink.
Thank you. Councillor Jordan, I have a question for you, and that's this, that I've been heartened tonight to hear support for cross-chamber working. What my understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, that one of the bars to that, one of the problems with that, is that the Alliance has a rule that a non-Alliance member cannot be on the cabinet. Can you confirm that if that is correct, that rule will be waived or altered?
Thank you, Councillor Spink. I can confirm we don't have any such rules as that. And indeed, we have reached out previously to certain other councillors and offered roles on the cabinet, which haven't been taken up. Happy to continue the. It would be absolutely remiss of us tonight. There's a clear message here that us as councillors want to find a way of working together. It'd be remiss not to try and capture that in some way. I don't know what that looks like. Right, I've been sat up here for 3 hours. You know, maybe in a few days or a few weeks time, I might have a better idea how we do that. But the spirit is there. Whether that means cabinet members from cross council, we'll see. But we'll certainly look at some way of capturing the experience and qualifications and qualities of members in this chamber. Absolutely. No rules. We haven't got. In fact, we haven't got many rules, Peter. I don't know. You've got a few in the Conservatives, I think, but we haven't got that many rules. It's pretty obvious, isn't it?
Supplementary, Councillor Spink? Or...
Yep, I'm pleased with that clarification, and we'll see what happens. Thank you.
Councillor Quigley.
Yes, following the unexpected but lively discussion around the Appointments Committee earlier, outside of the Appointments Committee, there's 2 points to my question, 2 parts, sorry. Outside of the Appointments Committee, would the leader like me to still be involved in the selection of Director of Children's Services?
From my perspective, I would. I think it's going on from what I've just said. On the one hand, talk about working around and using the qualifications of people, and then say, "Oh, but that doesn't relate to you." That seems rather strange to me. So personally, absolutely, Richard.
And on the subject of children's services, will the leader commit to a resolution to the school place planning issue in time for September 24 in conjunction with the head teachers and the Children's Scrutiny and Planning Committee?
Richard, I'd like to say yes, absolutely commit to it. I've just asked whether that September 24 is a realistic date, and I haven't got an answer. Can I come back to you on a realistic date? Because I don't know. The spirit and the commitments there, absolutely. Let's discuss when we can do that as a matter of urgency, at least. It's something we have to sort out, isn't it? This council has to resolve it. Let's do that.
I don't think I have anyone. Oh, I do. Councillor Garrett.
Thank you, Chair. May I ask the new leader if he will be looking, when working with his team on a draft budget for next year, that he will take the example of the Conservative group, and I will nod to them at this time, that at one point they published their indicative savings, as in place them properly in the public domain quite early. Now, that's politically hard to take the flak when people see that you might be thinking about some things which will affect them very, very much, but it does help inform the process. So will the new leader commit to bringing forward indicative savings much earlier than we have previously enjoyed in the last couple of years?
Thank you, councillor Garrett. Out in the public arena, if you mean out in the public arena, it's going to be quite tough. I certainly have got the proposals for the highways infrastructure savings this year, and I expect some of my colleagues may have had sight of theirs. The sooner we start on it, the better, and let's have it again. In true commitment, come and help us set this budget. You've got to vote on it next February anyway. You know, better that when we get to February, you've been part of understanding why the budget is set the way it's set. And along the way, if you've got some great ideas, I've heard Councillor Mosdale's got some good ideas on adult social care, which we'd really like to encompass and incorporate into the budget. Interesting to hear that. Yes, let's. Why not? Why not come? Well, you know, I haven't got all the answers. Let's hear some of the answers. It's going to be a tough budget again this year. You're already aware that we're probably, as of today, around 3 million savings to find a gain. It's a traditional 3 million a year, every year since 2010, more or less. Your own group, the Conservative group, had to tackle this and do the very things, put up car parking charges, cut services, cut staff, and your help will be much appreciated.
Councillor Bacon.
I was just going to add to something that Councillor Jordan said, but I think he's probably answered it fully unless you'd like me to comment further, Phil.
Okay, on that note, is there any more questions? Oh, Councillor Stewart.
Very simply, got my glasses on, I'm getting old now. Right, the secret criteria for dealing with school places issue resulted in uproar and damage to 4 schools suddenly named as under threat of closure. That's happened. At the children's scrutiny meeting, the cabinet member dealing with schools agreed that the criteria would be community-led with direct involvement of school leadership, staff, governors, parents, parish councils and town councils and other interested parties in the community. Can I ask the leader to confirm that the criteria for managing the school places issue will be led by the Isle of Wight community and fully transparent to all before the decision-making process?
Absolutely, transparency. Why not? I mean, why not? You know, I'll come to you, Debbie, and absolutely confirm that community and consultation is absolutely part of the plan. But we've got to get going, get started. It's got to be solved. Debbie, if you like to add something.
Just to add to that and to reassure you, there is a statutory process that has to be followed, and quite rightly so. And that statutory process does involve consultation.
So a supplementary, Councillor Stewart? Okay, so I think that brings us to the end of the meeting. As there are no further questions, thank you all for attending, and I think the rain has now stopped, so get home while you can. Thank you.